Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I am so honored to be standing here with my colleagues as we get ready for the coming legislative session. We are joined by, and you will hear from, Senate President Leroy Garcia, House Speaker Alec Garnett, Majority Leader Steve Fenberg, and Majority Leader Danae Escar. I want to thank, on behalf of Colorado, this legislative leadership team, all the members of the General Assembly, for really putting Colorado first over the last 2 years. In an extraordinary special session when legislators of both parties rose to come together in Colorado's time of greatest need, and of course during the two unusual general sessions, both of which had calendars that were affected by the pandemic. I'm proud of what we've accomplished together, even during challenging times. We've passed critical relief for individuals and small businesses, historic transportation funding to reduce traffic and help us achieve cleaner air, tax reform to put money back into the pockets of hardworking Coloradans, and of course, universal full-day kindergarten and implementation of universal preschool passed by more than 2/3 of the voters. Now, we are called again to meet the need of the moment. Though we're seeing our economy grow stronger, many Coloradans are hurting and need help, with costs going up faster than their income. So in the weeks and months ahead, we're committed to saving Coloradans money and reducing costs, whether it's cutting fees, reducing health care costs, saving money on child care or education, focus on protecting our way of life and making our state more affordable for everyone. Our budget request, funding to save Coloradans money through a targeted fee relief package. We're open to additional fee relief, including reducing vehicle registration fees, gas and driver's license fee reductions, making it free to start a business in Colorado, relief for businesses and employees on payroll taxes from paid family leave and from the Unemployment Trust Fund, and reduce or eliminate licensing fees for nurses and medical health professionals, some of our hardest working Coloradans during the pandemic, so that they don't have to pay the state to renew their license in the next year. We've also called for historic investments in Colorado's air quality to make sure we have clean air to breathe and can achieve our climate goals. We also are making sure that we do our best to make Colorado one of the safest states in the nation. The investment in public safety includes local community efforts supporting more and better policing to reduce crime, create livable communities, investing in the law enforcement workforce to help recruit, train, and retain the very best people to protect our communities and our families, early intervention and recidivism reduction to ensure people don't go down the life of crime or have the skills and services necessary to turn their lives around when they've served their term. With historic funding from the American Rescue Plan, we have an opportunity for transformational change, reducing housing costs, better meeting the behavioral health needs of Coloradans, workforce development, and economic recovery. I want to commend the leadership who stands with us today, as well as the bipartisan group of members who worked on the legislative task forces for putting forward recommendations on these issues. Now I'm happy to turn it over to the president of our state Senate, Senate President Leroy Garcia.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Governor Polis. It's great to be here with all of you today to discuss many of the priorities that we'll be focused on during the 2022 legislative session. For the last 2 years, Coloradans have endured some extremely tough challenges and circumstances. In that time, we've made real progress in the pursuit of recovery and rebuilding a stronger and better and more resilient Colorado. We return to the legislature ready to build on the momentum from the 2021 legislative session and to position Colorado for a better and brighter future. Every Coloradan deserves to live in a community that is safe, a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. This session, we are investing $1 billion in some of the deeply rooted causes to address the crime challenges, a lack of affordable housing and access to behavioral mental health services so that we can prevent crime from occurring and protect Coloradans from being victims in the first place. We're also investing money in forensic and investigative resources so that our law enforcement officers can properly investigate serious crimes. Coloradans deserve more than just a one-size-fits-all solution, so we're teaming up with local governments to combine our resources with their community expertise and to fund crime prevention programs that actually respond to the reality that we see right on the ground. These are smart, innovative, evidence-based solutions that will address the root causes of crime while taking the individual needs of a community into account. But public safety is far more than just the dangers of crime. Recently, Boulder County was the victim of the most destructive and dangerous fire in the state's history. We must do more to protect our communities from all threats of harm, which is why we already use this session to rebuild on our communities and improve their resiliency by building upon that $70 million of investment in fire mitigation efforts that we made last year. We're going to keep fighting to find bipartisan solutions, evidence-based solutions that will keep our communities safe and secure while we ensure justice and equality for all Coloradans. I thank you again for being with us here today, and I'd like to now turn it over to the Speaker of the House, Alec Garnett.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President Garcia and Governor Polis. Like the President said, the last 2 years have been really challenging for the people of Colorado. From the pressures of the pandemic to the costs of the wildfires that have impacted so many different communities across the state, to the high ozone levels that have led to suffocating air quality, and to the increasing crime. Democrats have been working for many years to bring down the high costs of health care, housing, child care, and higher education, to improve our public schools and protect our environment, to make our communities safer. Last year, we passed tax reform legislation that is putting more money into the pockets of hardworking Coloradans, and we eliminated the business personal property tax for tens of thousands of small businesses. We responsibly led Colorado through this pandemic, helping save many lives through smart public health measures and smart investments to boost our economic recovery. This session, we will redouble our efforts to save Coloradans money, prepare students for success, and improve public health and safety. Simply put, we hear the concerns of that Coloradans have, and we have a plan to make it easier for people to get by. We'll be working hard to cut costs where we can to make our state more affordable, so that Coloradans can keep more of their hard-earned money in their pockets. We're going to reduce fees or freeze fees on starting your own business, registering your car, getting your driver's license, renewing professional licenses for nurses and others in the healthcare workforce to reduce the financial burden for these essential frontline workers. One of the biggest drivers of costs in our state is housing. All of you feel that. We're going to make housing more affordable by directing nearly $400 million of federal funds into proven strategies to reduce costs on housing. We're going to use those federal dollars to create a revolving loan fund that will leverage large amounts of private and local funds to rapidly finance the development of affordable housing units. And because it's a fund, it will be going on and it will be self-sustaining for years to come. We're also going to use federal funds to build thousands of prefabricated homes to deploy high-quality, affordable homes quickly, especially in more rural parts of our state. It will create jobs, and it will make sure that we have short-term and long-term strategies for the affordable housing crisis. We're going to continue our efforts to save people money on health care and prescription drug costs, including by making sure that the drug rebates are passed along to consumers. Finally, Coloradans are going to save money through expanded access to universal preschool, building on our recent success in expanding access to full-day kindergarten statewide. And take it from a dad who has 3 kids under 6, making sure we're increasing opportunities for families for high-quality early childhood education will help save families money. The transformational investments we're making this year will help Colorado's economy recover and create greater opportunities for everyone. Our work will make sure that if you work hard and you do your fair share, you will have a fair shot at the American dream and the amazing Colorado way of life. Thanks so much for being here. With that, I'll hand it off to Senate Majority Leader Steve Fenberg.
Thank you, Speaker Garnett. We've made great strides in recent years to get Colorado on track to being the healthiest state possible. We've cut prescription drug prices, we're bringing down insurance premiums, and we're increasing access to affordable health care in every corner of our state. However, over the past few years, we have also faced existential challenges that threaten our health and our very Colorado way of life. From extreme floods to megafires to seemingly never-ending ozone alerts, our state's long-term health is on the line. Just days ago, we watched in horror as uncontrollable fires tore through communities in Boulder County. They destroyed over 1,000 homes. Entire neighborhoods have disappeared. Families are now literally rebuilding from the ground up, and for so many, this is a once unthinkable experience. As we in the legislature do all that we can to assist these families and these small businesses and these communities every step of the way for the rebuilding and recovery process, we must also do everything we can to prevent the next tragedy from being so bad. Colorado is no stranger to wildfires, but this time was clearly different, and we have to face the facts. Extreme weather patterns like unseasonably dry conditions and an increasingly hotter climate make Colorado a tinderbox, leaving us one windstorm just one spark away from the next unfortunate tragedy. Unless we take action. This year we will be making investments to mitigate and respond to the extreme kinds of wildfires that we've seen. We have to do everything in our power to make sure this does not become the new normal. Because right now there are really no longer wildfire seasons like there used to be in Colorado. There are now wildfire years. And if we're not careful, a very similar thing can happen to us when it comes to our air quality. Each year, it seems our ozone season stretches just a little bit longer. The summer days getting a little bit more hazy. Last summer, the Front Range set new records, and these aren't records you want to set. These are records of having the worst air quality in the world on multiple days. This is an ominous sign of what we could see every summer if we don't face the facts. Building on our progress over the past few years, we're poised to make major investments to clean up our air. That means cracking down on polluters where necessary, tackling our transportation emissions by electrifying entire fleets and school buses and trucks, and ensuring our air quality division has the tools that they need, the funding that they need, and the expertise that they need to enforce our existing regulations and laws. My daughter just turned 2 years old a few days ago. This is why I do this work. I am in this for her. I want her to grow up enjoying the same blue skies, the same clean air that I did a couple of decades ago when I fell in love with this state. This is not work that can wait until tomorrow. These are not problems we can leave for the next generation. It's on us to do what we can today so the Coloradans of tomorrow can breathe a little easier and live a little bit better. Now I'd like to introduce someone else who has, even more recently than I have, brought a little one into this world, my fellow Majority Leader, Danae Escar.
Good afternoon. We've all heard from parents and teachers and students in our communities who have felt the difficult and acute impacts of the pandemic. The past 2 years have been incredibly difficult. We all know that. Preparing students for success is one of our big focuses this year. Last session, we made important strides, and some of these critical initiatives are just now being implemented. For example, we funded high-impact tutoring to address pandemic-related learning disruption. We made 3 free mental health counseling sessions available to students, a program that is seeing incredible uptake and use among our students. We invested over $10 million in teacher recruitment and retention programs and created an educator mental health program. In just the last few years, we've increased per pupil funding, created full-day K, and expanded access to childcare and preschool. These efforts not only prepare our students for success, they're also saving families money and boosting our workforce. This session, we're going to make the largest investment in K-12 education in the state's history to prepare our workforce and students for success and to ensure every single student has the resources in their classrooms to succeed. Your success in the classroom should not depend on the wealth of the community you live in. School districts are best positioned to spend these additional resources in a way that meets their local needs. This could mean more money for classroom instruction or teacher pay, for teacher training, or for additional arts and special education program for students. In addition to next year's historic increase in per pupil funding, we're looking to prepay funds for future years so we can sustain this increase in a responsible way and really pay back the debt that we owe the education system in Colorado. We are also focused on expanding post-secondary credentials to keep up with our fast-changing economy, and so our young people have every opportunity before them to learn new skills and enter growing industries in our state. They've also proposed creating stackable credentials. These new improved pathways will help guide Coloradans from high school into the workforce or further education, earning credentials that could later be combined into a degree. Someone who's worked with high school students deciding their future, this is imperative. This is so exciting for them to be able to figure out what it is they want to do when they graduate high school with a path forward, whether it's workplace, whether it's credentials, or moving on to higher education. We have a tremendous opportunity this year. We've heard the concerns that Coloradans and businesses have. We're going to meet this moment and deliver transformational changes that ensure students have the resources they need in the classroom and that every Coloradan has the opportunity to learn new skills, take good paying jobs, and thrive. And with that, I will hand it back over to our governor, Jared Polis.
Thank you to our legislative leaders. You will see a real focus this session on saving people money, cutting fees, saving people money on healthcare and housing to reduce costs, improving our public schools, including record investment in reducing class size and paying teachers better, and of course, improving public safety and making sure that Colorado can be one of the safest places to go for a walk at night or to have a business. With that, we're happy to take some questions.
Yeah, Governor, Republicans have made light of the fact that a lot of these priorities are the same priorities that they outlined back in August, particularly on the area of public safety. How do you respond to concerns that measures passed over the last couple of years have made it more difficult for policing and that you're just walking it back now?
So I think there's great opportunity for bipartisan cooperation on public safety. And the fact that both Republican and Democratic elected officials are identifying that as a priority is a simple reflection of the fact that it is a priority for the people of the state of Colorado. Across the country, crime has increased, and here in Colorado, we hope that there's a strong bipartisan commitment to reverse that trend and increase public safety. Anybody else on that one? Okay, Leroy, go ahead.
Thank you, Governor. Marianne, I would also just reflect that of the policies that you saw over the last several years, we should note that, especially here in Colorado, that we noted that a lot of those policies were bipartisan in nature, and the policies that we recognize probably shouldn't advance didn't move forward. So I think I look forward to working with my colleagues on the proposals we have before us this year.
Yes.
Aren't many of the affordability proposals just delaying the implementation of policies that you all recently passed?
So, no, we're looking at reducing the cost of driver's license fees, looking at making sure that there's not an increase in payroll tax. That requires a one-time investment in the unemployment trust fund. The voters of Colorado passed family leave. Working with the legislature, we can delay the implementation of the cost of that closer to when the actual benefit starts, to when people can actually take off rather than starting more than a year before the actual benefit. So making it free to start a business in Colorado, a lot of great ideas to reduce fees, to save people money. Some of them are one-time and address one-time problems like the unemployment trust fund that every state is experiencing after the record draws on it during the pandemic. Others are temporary, like reductions in vehicle registration fees and the gas tax.
Gabby?
Governor, hospitals in the state are operating under crisis mode again. How do you make sure that lawmakers can come here and work without session becomes
We have full confidence in members of the legislature to be responsible role models, to take the precautions that are necessary to protect themselves, their constituents, those who work here at the Capitol. And we look forward to supporting that effort however we can through availability of testing. And just as we made over 2 million masks available to schools across our state, 2 million masks have been used by teachers and students across our state, medical grade masks. We'll also be making a free medical grade masks available to those who visit our state capitol.
Megan Lopez.
Megan, Denver 7, two-parter, so please don't be mad. First part, kind of going back to the fees. Can you talk a little bit more about the gas fee that was supposed to be implemented and kind of the decision to delay it? Did it have anything to do with the midterm? Second part, totally different, but you had mentioned to various outlets that you were thinking about having some sort of legislative action when it comes to minimum sentencing standards. Is that something that you want to see done?
Let me do the. Look, what the legislature, as part of the bipartisan transportation bill, decided is that over time, gas tax will be adjusted for inflation. What I think we can all agree on now is not that time. When families are struggling to keep up with costs, now is not the time for the gas tax to keep up with inflation. If that's a good policy in the long run to help make sure that we have less traffic and roads and bridges, that's a fine thing. But now is not the time. Let's show people relief at the pump, especially with gas at $3.80 a gallon or more.
And all I'll say on the mandatory minimum sentences is we have a process set up through CCJJ that looks at a lot of these issues and brings proposals forward to the legislature. I think it's important for us to be thoughtful as we look at these issues, especially in the case of one area where there's prosecutorial discretion on how to move forward. So we want to be thoughtful, and we want to lean in on the bipartisan group of stakeholders and experts who usually come forward to the legislature with those types of proposals.
I have two budget questions mainly for legislative leaders. One, will you guys make any efforts to rearrange money such that the state does not have to refund, give out the couple billion in TABOR refunds that are projected for the next 3 years? Secondly, given the new fiscal landscape, what is a reasonable new timeline for eliminating the negative factors? That's something we could have this year.
Yeah, those are great questions, Alex. I think taking the first one on, listen, we are laser focused on saving people money and making sure Colorado is more affordable. We are in a unique budget system because of where the pandemic has led us. And so we're going to be really thoughtful about making sure that we are putting Colorado families first when it comes to policies that are making their way through the legislature. So we want to be, my door is always open. No one's come and talked to me yet about any of those proposals, but we need to put Colorado families first. Secondly, on the question about the budget stabilization factor, there's no doubt that the classroom is the center point for pressures generated by this pandemic. Students and teachers and parents have felt a lot of those pressures. We need to do everything we can to invest as much as we can in the classrooms. And so I think you'll see a historic investment in our K-12 system through our school finance formula. We're going to work with our JBC members to see how much we can do. Whether or not it's a little bit more complicated than just paying down the budget stabilization factor, but I think you will see a historic investment in the classroom this year being led by Democrats and the JBC.
So we will be constantly monitoring what's happening and being in contact with epidemiologists, the Colorado Department of Public Health, and making sure that we are taking all the precautions necessary. We have tests available for everybody who wishes to use one when they come into this building. We are asking for masks to be worn in the areas where we can regulate that. And again, we just hope people are responsible, and we will definitely keep pace on what is happening and make that call, shall we have to make that call, but just constantly keeping up with what is happening in the world, what's happening in this building, and making sure we are keeping not only the legislators, but our amazing staff that work in this building safe, and also the public. We want to encourage that to make sure that the public is safe to continue the form of democracy that we have.
Final question?
Right here.
Final question? Yes.
What is your response to Congressman Perlmutter's decision to retire?
You know, Ed just called me this morning. Ed has been one of the most dedicated and effective fighters for our state. So my initial reaction was disappointment that Colorado is losing a fighter. Of course, he'll continue to fight for us for the next year, but I wish him well in his personal career. I understand how difficult servicing Congress has become, and I know that Ed will succeed in whatever he tackles next, and he leaves big shoes to fill for the 7th Congressional District. Thank you.